As a therapist, endings are going to happen in therapy. So in this episode, let's talk about endings. Hello and welcome to Therapy Business School. My name is James Taylor. I'm a counsellor, hypnotherapist, life coach, hypnotherapy supervisor. I'm also an author, a podcaster and a YouTuber. So this is all about endings. Before we get into that, I'm going to do a bit of self-promotion. I've just opened a new Facebook group. It's just for therapists. It's a private community. The link will be in the description. That's out the way. Right, let's talk about endings. Endings are so important in therapy, and it's important that we handle these endings properly. And it should be, I think, it should be on the therapist to handle the ending correctly. At the end of this video, I want to share an ending with you that concerns myself that was done in the worst way possible. All right, so wait around for that one. So endings. Here's some strategies when you are working with a client. Let's say, and I'm going to come at this from a few different angles, but let's say you're working with a client for 10 sessions. Let's say it's an agreed 10 sessions. Well, a thing that I will do, I will remind the client just very casually, so we're on session 5 of today. How are things going for you? And I will go quiet. Now that casual throwaway comment, we're on session 5 today. The client knows they're on session 5, but sometimes it's a good reminder. Now, if you are working open-ended with clients, you wouldn't say I'm on session 5 today, because you just keep going until the sessions reach a conclusion. But it might be an idea to have a word with your client, whether you're working to a set series of sessions or whether it's very open-ended. It might be an idea at the very start to say to a client, I think endings are really important. So can we agree that when our time is completed together, we have a last session just to summarise and end properly on our journey together? Would that be all right? Very casual, very conversational. This stuff works, and the client, I found, it helps them because they know that it's not going to be a case of they're with you for a series of weeks and then that's it, a cull, and that's not going to happen. So this is really useful. Now, in my own therapy practice, I am big on goal setting, and I like to try and see where the client is on goal setting. Is there something they're wanting to achieve? Are they wanting to start something or stop something? Sometimes it's a little bit of both. So what I like to do is have a check-in with the clients. So it might be something along the lines of, I remember when we first started working together, you said you wanted to work on X, Y, and Z. Do you feel we're still working on that, or does something else come up that you'd like to work on? Where do you think we are? And I'll go quiet. Just being considerate, you're being ethical, you're being professional, and you're checking in with the client, because the client may come for one thing and then they branch off because something else pops up, and then they really want to talk about that instead. So you're giving them autonomy. Which way is the ship steering? But you're also giving a bit of a lead and a bit of a helping hand in the process. So I'd recommend that as well. Now, sometimes a client can be quite concerned with the thought of the sessions coming to an end, because you've been with them. You've been with them potentially for a protracted period of time, helping them, supporting them, listening to them, helping them understand themselves. And the thought of then you not being there can be quite scary for the client. So I talk a lot in stories and metaphors. I've always done it ever since I was a child. I think I try and do it to explain myself. I even wrote a book on this. The link for that will be in the description below. But I would use this kind of story or metaphor with a client. And it's a little bit from my own past, really. Because before I was a therapist, when I first left school, I was a gardener for the city council. And then I was a tree surgeon. And one of the jobs we had to do, as well as cutting trees down, was plant them. Plant new trees. And there's a way of doing it, with a stake in the ground, and you tie the tree next to the stake. So I will use that kind of metaphor or analogy with a client. And the way I'd probably say it is, when a new tree is put in the ground, sometimes it just needs some support system. So a stake is put in the ground, and the stake is like a piece of old wood, a lot thicker than the tree. But the stake is put in the ground and then the tree is supported by the stake. But at some point, the tree grows and then the tree can be released from the stake and the stake can be removed, and now the tree can stand in its own right. Its roots have gone deep and its roots have gone wide, and now it can stand the weather. And this is what therapy can be like a little bit. And I will say this kind of thing with a client just to get a gauge of where they are with this. What I've found is they get the analogy. They get the fact that you're with them for a part of the journey, but not forever. Now they still might be scared. So another way of working with an ending towards a client that I found useful is, let's say you're meeting weekly with a client. It might be there's a weaning off period. So a thing you can suggest is, well, why don't we extend the sessions instead of every week? Why don't we go every 2 weeks? See how things are. We can always go back to a week if things aren't okay at the moment. But why don't we see if 2 weeks works for us both? What do you think? See what they say. Let's say you extend to 2 weeks and that's everything's fine. And the client's learning to stand on their own 2 feet. It's part of you removing the stake from this symbolic tree I've been talking about. So let's say 2 weeks is fine. How do you feel about having a session every 3 weeks? See how you get on. What do you think? Now, clients, again, they can be a little bit apprehensive. Some clients can really look forward to this. They really look forward to, I want to do the 2 weeks. I'm feeling better. I feel more capable now to have a 2 week break between sessions as opposed to every week. And also there's a financial implication for this as well, because the client would not be paying for a session every week. They're paying for one every fortnight. So that can be really beneficial. Now, on the last session with a client, I always find it quite useful to ask the client how their journey has been. What can they now do that they couldn't do before? What do they now know that they didn't know before? And I'll go quiet and I'll listen. And it's one of the reasons I love my job. To hear a client being able to talk about, I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, and now I can. Now I can do these things. I find that wonderful to hear. Now, a thing to be aware of, a client may heap all the praise on you as if you did everything and they were just along for the ride. If that kind of thing happens, I would recommend saying to the client, I was just with you on part of the journey while you uncovered your answers. This wasn't me. This is because you rolled your sleeves up and you got stuck in. That's why you're seeing those results. That's why you're feeling those results. Because you engage with the process. This is on you. This is down to you. So I'm still showing support. And that is truly what I believe as well, but I'm still showing support right up until the end. Now, clients may get emotional on the last session. They may wonder how they're going to cope. How's it going to be? It can be difficult for clients. So the way I handle that is, I'm only ever a WhatsApp away. If anything else comes up for you and you want to talk about it, just get in touch. That's always fine. And I'll just leave it like that. It's always fine. No problem at all. And I've had many times over clients who I've worked with in the past, something else has come up for them. And because that therapeutic bridge is being built, I'm the person that they want to contact when they want to consider therapy again. And that's a massive compliment, I find, as well. The fact that they trust me enough to come back and carry on working together. So the door's not closed. It's just shut over a little bit. And if they ever need to come back, it's fine. You'd only ever a WhatsApp or a text message or an email away. All right? So just a few thoughts around endings. Now, I did say about this true story about the worst ending you could think of. Well, it's probably not the worst ending you can think of, but it is a true story and it was handled very badly. And it has nothing at all to do with therapy. Now, before I was a therapist, I was a detective in the Metropolitan Police, and I was in that job for over 20 years. Now, on my very last day, the deal was I was going to be handing my kit in which there wasn't very much to hand in, but I was going to be handing my kit in and signing a few forms, and that was going to be the ending of my police career. Now, I didn't fancy driving all the way into London, so I went on one of the police stations on the outskirts, just because it was closer to my home address. Now, by pure coincidence, as I was driving into that police station, the person I was going to meet, my supervisor, was in the car in front. So we ended up going into the police station, the underground car park, at the same time. They reversed into a bay. There was a bay next to them, and I reversed into there. So now our cars were parallel to each other. They got out the car, I got out of mine. And they said to me, well, there's no point in finding an office upstairs, is there, to do this? We might as well do this in the car park. Okay. So they opened up the boot of their car. I opened up the boot of my car. I put my bag in their boot. It was like a drugs deal going down, really. And I put my bag in the boot of their car, and I signed 2 forms, and they said, right, okay. And I said, right, okay. And I got in the car, and I was in and out of the car park within 5 minutes maximum. So I drove into the car as a police officer, and I drove out of the car park as a as an ex-police officer. The worst ending possible. Now, personally, I didn't want the red carpet treatment rolled out. And the person who was my supervisor, we didn't really get along, if I could just leave it like that. There was a clash of personalities, say. But at the same time, what a terrible ending for over a 20-plus year career. A terrible way to end. Especially if feeling like a drugs deal. So, why have I told this story? Well, I don't think you're going to be doing this with your clients, but it's mega important. And if you handle an ending properly, the relationship can naturally do its thing, as opposed to being split and any further trauma. It's a natural conclusion to a journey, and I think that can be a wonderful experience, both being with them on part of it and the natural conclusion at the end. So if you've liked this video, please remember to give it the like, the share and the subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell. That tells YouTube that this kind of content might be quite useful. Now, on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about erotic transference, so make sure you stick around and subscribe so you get notified when I make that video. So that'll be the next episode out. Alright, so I'll see you next time. This is James from Therapy Business School. Bye bye.